Yo, what's up to all my fellow human beings? Thank you for stopping in twice again to the Viewturistic YouTube channel. Let me rap to you for a minute. Today, I want to talk about having the courage to leave a broken, bad, toxic relationship. Now, tell me, am I wrong? But probably a majority of us, myself included, and I know a lot of y'all listening, have probably been in situationships where the relation you knew all along, you might have even known from the beginning that the situation, or for the sake of this video, we'll call it a relationship, that it was a toxic situation and that it wasn't good for you. And hell, you might have even been the toxic person, and you knew that you weren't good for that other person, but you chose to continue to waste their time anyway, chose to continue to wreak havoc on that other person's life or wreak havoc on the relationship, or vice versa. Maybe it was that other person and you continue to allow them to wreak havoc on you. And for whatever reason, you didn't have the courage, or you just decided not to end that relationship, not to get out of that situation. Um, Myself, I've been in it. Like I said, I know a lot of you have before as well. There are so many factors that can come into play to make someone choose to not leave a situation like that. Now, there's some people out there who, at the first sign of a red flag, the first sign of adversity in a relationship or a bond or a situationship, whatever the hell you want to call it, some people have that low tolerance or lack of patience or just that ability to vamp out of that situation right away. And to those of you who have that, bravo, because it's a tough thing to do. Now, I know everyone is different. Every situation is different. For some people, the reason that they're choosing not to leave, it might, it's their prerogative. It's their business. So it's one thing to be on the outside looking in, telling someone that they should leave a situation or that a relationship isn't good for their health, or it isn't good for them. But until you're actually in that situation, it's really hard to know what someone's motivators are behind choosing to stay in a situation like that. However, as a human being, being a human being means someone who reflects on their past to get a clearer view of the future. And that's what you all are. You are all my fellow human beings because you are watching the Viewturistic YouTube channel. So from one human being to another human being, let me tell you from my view what you can do to build that courage to get out of those toxic situations. The first thing that you want to do is analyze or weigh out the pros and the cons. Now, I know this sounds easier said than done. However, I believe it's a necessary step in determining whether it's time for you to get out of that situation or whether that situation has life still left in it to continue on. But you need to, or you should try to weigh the pros and the cons of that situation and ask yourself, by staying in this situation, how will it benefit me and how will it negatively affect me? And if your negatively affected column outweighs the beneficial column, it might just be time to go. Regardless of how difficult it might be for you to leave that, whether it's because it's a comfortable situation, whether you feel like, oh, I'll never find anyone else, or this person, I'll never find anyone that I love as much as this person, or I'll never find anyone who loves me as much as this person does. Let me tell you, the last time I checked, there's about 6 billion people on this earth. 6 billion people, which means logically there probably is going to be someone out there who will love you just as much as that other person does, or they might even love you more. Now, the more accurate thing to be saying is, oh, I don't want to put in the effort to find that person. If that's your reasoning, fine. That's a lot more accurate description versus saying there's no one else who's going to love me like this person loves me, or I'll never find anyone else who I can love like I love that person. Because to me, that's pure bullshit, because there's just too many people in this world for that to be a legitimate excuse. But like I said, if you're saying that you don't want to go through starting over and putting the effort into finding someone else, that's completely understandable. However, unless you want to continue to put yourself in those detrimental situations and that situation is beyond repair, trust me, based on personal experience, you'll thank your former self later for leaving out of that situation sooner than later, because for one, that's giving you that much more time to get out there on the scene to find someone who is more compatible with you. And for two, that's distracting even more time for that situation to negatively affect your life and to continue to rot your soul. Because essentially, that's what toxic and negative situations do. They rot your soul, and you give so much of yourself into that other person, or just into that situation as a whole, that you drain your own personality, and before you know it, you've lost yourself, and you're no longer the self that you once knew yourself to be, which for the most part, that's a bad thing. Now, I know a lot of us change for the better, but in these situations, if you're in a bad relationship situation, usually the you that you aren't anymore is usually for the worse. So you got to think ahead a little bit and understand that the sooner that you get the courage to get out of those situations by weighing the pros and cons, the higher the likelihood that you'll have a better quality of life, at least in that area, because you're removing yourself from a situation like that sooner than later. Another thing to do to get the courage to leave out of a situation like that is kind of alluding to what I said earlier in this video is, a lot of times we can look at a situation from the outside looking in and say, girl, you better leave that dude alone. He ain't no good for you. He ain't gonna do nothing but treat you like shit. Or, man, homie, like, she ain't shit. I heard about her, or I see what she's doing, or whatever the case may be. You gotta get out of that situation. Now, like I said, it's on the outside looking in, it's easier to tell someone what you think they should or shouldn't do as far as their relationship goes. However, only you know what's best for you. And upon saying that, I want to say, try to look at your situation from the outside looking in. What would you tell your friend if you could step out of your situation, if you could have an outer body experience or whatever you want to call it, and look at your situation from the outside looking in? If that was a loved one, or if that was your brother, sister, friend, auntie, uncle, whatever, if that was someone that you cared about, what type of advice would you give that person? Try to give that same advice to yourself. You have to step out of the situation to get a better analysis of it, to get a clearer view of it. And oftentimes that means that you're going to have to go through that rough time, or accomplishing the difficult task of removing your emotions from that situation and looking at it from a purely objective lens. And when you do that, you're able to, like I said, give yourself the same advice that you would give a friend in regards to your view on the health of that relationship. And if you do that, if you find yourself telling yourself that, if this was my brother and his girlfriend, and I saw her treating him the way that my mate or my spouse or whatever is treating me, would I tell my brother to continue in that, or would I say, hey man, you might want to consider seeking elsewhere, or consider approaching this situation and fixing it and saying, hey, if we don't change X, Y, or Z, then I'm out of here. So that's another tip from my view on something that you can do to build up the courage to get out of a toxic situation. Like I said, from my own personal experiences, looking back, of course, in every situation, there's always a lesson to be learned. So from where I stand today, reflecting on my prior relationships or prior situations that weren't good for me, that were toxic, of course, if I put a positive spin on it, I can say, hey, well, if I never would have been in that situation or that relationship, I never would have learned this, or I never would have experienced that, whatever the case may be. So that's just from where I am right now in an introspective state of mind, trying to make the best out of a bad situation. However, would I have preferred to save all that heartache and headache and stress that came along with staying in a situation a lot longer than I should have? Hell yeah. So you would thank yourself later down the line if you get out of a situation sooner than later. And like I said, looking back on my situations, I knew that there were plenty times where the person that I was with, I'm like, we really ain't working, but it's a comfortable situation. Or I had those same thoughts too, that I'll never find anybody who can love me as much as she does. Or and like I said, I'm not referring to any specific she. This is in regards to the many different relationships and situations that I've been in. Because let me tell you, I haven't always been the best at picking the right ones for myself. That's just the honest to God truth. I'm trying to get better at that. But like I said, when I reflect on those situations, I realize that there were many more situations than not when early on in that relationship I knew it wasn't right, but for whatever reason I chose to stay, because either I didn't have the confidence in myself to know that I can go out there and seek someone just as good or better, that I didn't have the confidence to know that by leaving this person it won't have as much of a detrimental effect on my life as I think. It's like snatching off a Band-Aid. It's gonna hurt at first, but it's something that you got to do. You can't walk around with a Band-Aid on your wound forever. Otherwise, you'll never heal. You'll never progress. So same thing with getting out of those relationships. And that's something that I wasn't always the best at. So hopefully to all my fellow human beings out there who's watching this right now, who's viewing this, hopefully you won't make the same mistakes that I made. And, if you are in that spot in your life where you're having to make a tough decision to build up the courage to get out of a situation that isn't working for you, take some of the things that I said and try to apply it to your own situation and see if it helps. Hopefully it does help. So you don't want to be like me, looking back on your situations, identifying all those places in that situation or relationship when you knew you should have gotten out, but for whatever reason you didn't. So just become more aware of yourself. Set your standards to where to where you believe they should be. Don't base your standards on what you think someone else thinks your standards should be, because that'll fuck you up too. Worrying so much about what your family will think or what your friends will think, things like that, based on your standards. You have to have your standards to what's going to be effective and conducive to your lifestyle in regards to selecting a potential mate, and you have to apply those. And you can't be scared to be upfront about those things either, because the quicker and the sooner or the earlier on in that situation that you reveal what your standards are, even what your intentions are, that's going to weed out a lot of those bad situations. Now, you're always going to have those people who might lie and sneak their way in, but once again, just always follow this. Your heart is going to tell you one thing, your mind is going to tell you one thing, and your gut is going to tell you another thing. Me personally, I've been getting to the point in life where I want to follow more right here, because that gut feeling never lies. Thinking back in my life on times where my gut was telling me certain things and I decided to ignore it by using this or this, those two, the heart and my mind, were usually wrong when my gut was telling me something else. Trust me on this one. The gut never ever lies. So if you are faced with someone who you feel like they're trying to wiggle their way in to maneuver around the standards that you set, more times than not, your gut feeling is going to tell you whether or not that person is genuine or not. So early on, you have to make sure that you set those standards so that you can weed out a potential bad situation from not even happening. So that's where I'm going to leave that today. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in to the Viewturistic ViewTube channel. We are looking forward to all of our new subscribers. Thank you to all who have subscribed already. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you share it. If you have any comments, comment below in the comment box, or hit me up. Shoot me a text message. Let me know if there's a topic that you want me to touch on to give my perspective on it. Maybe that can help you somewhere along in your life. If you believe that my view on things can help you figure out a situation, shoot me a text message. My number is 414-292-72. Oh, I'm sorry. 414-292-7258. I think I did that for 7 last time. But yeah, 414-292-7258. Or you can shoot us email that's theviewture@gmail.com. TheViewture. Until next time, keep viewing what you're viewing. Peace out to all my fellow human beings. We out of here.
Subscribe.